This conference will now be recorded.
Everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, very well. I will call the Board of Supervisors Budget Work Session number 7 to order. Let's all start with the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence, if you would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Let the record show we do have a quorum with all members present. So the first order of business is to adopt the agenda. Any changes anybody has to the agenda from the board? Anything from staff? No? Very well. I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Whoops. Very well. Have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Opposed, nay. All right.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't necessarily have to be on the agenda, but sometime around the last public comment, I did want to make a very short statement.
So some information, correspondence or
Yes,
whatever?
information
Okay.
and correspondence.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, so the next item is public comment. Is there any general public comment out there today? Not specific to anything in the rest of the agenda? Nothing back there? All right. And seeing none, hearing none, we will close public comment. We will do that again. If anybody wants to stay and probably has something to say then. All right, so we move on to the FY27 budget workshop, department's budget follow-ups. Treasurer's Office and Revenue. Madam Treasurer?
Good afternoon. I come to you because I have been working with the bank to try to get us a better interest rate, and I have been successful. But where I had been using sweep and keeping pretty large sum of money to try to offset fees, I'd been sitting down and doing some calculations and then spoke with the bank, and they ran some numbers. Fees are inevitable, but the fact is I can earn a lot more money. The fees will go up, but I can net more money if I reduce the amount that we have in the account to hold, and then I can sweep more, like $7 million more than what I have been. So with that in mind, at the interest rate that they're saying at this point, which we're grateful, 3.14%. So but the fees will be somewhere around $2,400 a month, which means I'll have to increase my treasurer's expense budget to offset that, but the interest, we should net about $131,000 if it stays at the 3.14 for the whole year. I ran that as scenario one. I just did like 0.5% increments, but the fact is anywhere from 62,000 to 131 additional revenue. So, and I believe it will be the higher. So we've increased the revenue interest line, 110,000. Just, I don't want to go the full 131, but I think this is doable. So we're increasing that,
110?
110.
And then we also increased Ms. Murray's expense on the bank fees by 26,000
Right.
to accommodate the 2,400 plus
Yeah.
factoring what we already
Yeah,
had in
that's
there.
an average what the fees will be a month. But it's worth it. So that's the good news. The bad, well, I won't say bad news. I'm glad we found this and are able to get more funds. But the local sales tax estimate for fiscal year '27 went down. So I don't know if you can pull that up, Jennifer.
Yeah, do you
It
have
went
that?
down from what they had estimated for fiscal year '26.
I have our projection went down by 90,406 from the original budget projection we did last week. So we're down, and I can tell you the amount.
So when I saw the pages on fund balance, were those numbers regarding fund balance, was that a projection or was that budget from last year?
In the PowerPoint?
Yeah, in the
For
PowerPoint.
FY '25 is
Or
actual,
six.
'26 is still projection.
Projection or budget?
Yes, budget,
Budget, okay.
correct.
All right,
But to looking at I'll give you the exact number for the sales tax.
I had estimated, tried to estimate it on the trend that had been happening, but when we actually
Right.
received the numbers from the state, it was lower.
Yeah, so it went, there's your interest income, we went up to 810, and then there's your sales tax
Right. It actually went down a little bit from last
from the
year's,
last budget, yeah.
for what we actually received as the projection for fiscal year '26. So it's actually gone down about 14,000.
so we're taking FY '27 budget down based on the dip in FY '26 then? So,
The actuals were like 1.7 million, a little over 1.7.
uh-huh,
So, but they had projected, of course, last year, 1.855 for fiscal year '26, but then running the numbers now, they've taken it down to 1.840.
all right.
So, I'm sorry to report, but yet I'm happy to report that we can make up some of that with the interest.
Yeah, and that's still a conservative number, don't you think?
Well,
No?
not so sure that it is.
Okay,
I mean, we usually take what the state provides on that.
yeah. Okay, so back to the interest and the fees, so 110K increase in interest, 26K increase in the fees, so we're gonna net 84 out of that.
Right.
Okay,
That's correct.
so 84 up, 14 down.
Well, no, we were 90,000 higher on our estimate at the last week's meeting. The last week's number for this local sales tax was 1,000,009.
It was 1,000,009 for the local. He was just talking about the interest at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But yet you have to figure in that unfortunately, that projection had to go down for the local sales tax.
yeah, okay. All right,
All right.
well, that's real money.
Right. Is there anything
Thank you.
else?
Get back down the hill and come up with
Well,
something
no,
else.
actually,
Steph?
I was gonna take off at 1 today and I didn't do it. I'm
There
going
you
to
go.
babysit,
Okay,
so, so have a good one and
All right.
thank you for what you do.
All right,
We
thanks,
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
okay, is there anything further on?
I mean, to your point, you're down 14 from where we thought we were
Yeah.
going to be.
we're down 90 from where we thought we were going to be on that line
On
item.
that, but if you take her.
Yes.
Bank thing, yeah.
Yes.
Turn your mic on, Mr. Wick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The point of clarity was, yes, we were 90 less than what originally projected on revenue. with the adjustment of fee projections Ms. Murray has before you
Yeah.
on the screen, it's a delta of a little over 14,000, so.
All right. Well, that's good. Okay, the next item, Sheriff's Office Annual Performance Evaluation Policy.
All right, Mr. Chairman, Sheriff Weaver could not be here this afternoon, so I told them that I would bring this to the board and just provide you with the information that their department has put together. I think at our last meeting, we talked about the $58,000 additional increase he was requesting for his staff for evaluations and merit, and we went back to him after last week's meeting and asked that they present a policy that the board could look at that would go along with their request, and this is a draft of the performance evaluation policy that they have put together. They also took their evaluations, the employee evaluations that they did this last go-around, I guess a couple months ago, and evaluated using this performance plan. They went through each of those evaluations and rated their employees based on this plan to see where they land as far as the percentage. And the result of that is also in the packet, and it's about 37,000 versus the 58,000 of an increase if the board were to approve this policy and adopt it. The increase to the budget with court security included would be roughly 37,000 with FICA and benefits. So I told them that I would bring this to the board per your request for a policy.
All right, thank you. Everybody's read through this. I think I'll start off. So this is, if you look at the footer on this, this is a Lexipol document which they use quite a bit, right, Mr. Weekly?
Yes, sir.
Lexipol for a lot of
Lexipol is
stuff.
a platform for many things law enforcement to
Yeah.
include policy.
So I think the Lexipol policy is okay. I don't feel like that this is something, since he is a constitutional officer and that this is something that we need to approve. But I mean, I'm happy to see it and can't say that. I mean, I think it's okay, but am I wrong on that, Mr. Weekly, that you know of? I don't think we need to approve it because.
And I think you're correct, Mr. Chairman, just for all board members and the public. The sheriff's office is a constitutional office. Sometimes we have what's called cooperative agreement amongst constitutional offices that will say things like, hey, we agree, to be under county, insurance plan or things of that nature, payroll, because it doesn't make sense to have a separate finance department or a human resource department. However, if they choose not to elect that, they still have to have guiding policies such as human resource policies. So Lexipol is their equivalent. So yes, sir, it would be the constitutional officer policy on this, which would be within their purview. Your purview is the purse, if you will.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I think I would frame it as we approve of it, so to speak, not approve it, but, yeah.
That's a good point. I shouldn't have worded it that way. We asked them to present a policy, not necessarily for you to approve, but for you to see
just
their
wanna make sure.
justification on their merit increases. So I will note that I've read through the policy, and it does have a statement in there about subject to county funds. So that was one thing I did want to point out. Let me get to that page.
It's on
Did I
page-
pass it?
The very first thing under policy.
Yes, funding and merit pool, merit increases are subject to budget approval. So that is something I wanted to
You
mention.
got something, Mr. Jewett?
Yeah, I get my, but I don't know which one of these to use. I might use 3 or 4 simultaneously. Anyway, I appreciate the sheriff sharing this with us. I think it's just characteristic of cooperation between some of our departments with the Board of Supervisors. And one of the things, as far as the budget's concerned, and I mentioned this last week, I do think that the line items for each department need to be separated out between COLAs and any merit or step increase category, so that we know when we're approving a countywide, or COLAs are being approved, that everybody knows they're getting the same COLA. The merit step increases that are different policies, such as the sheriff's, that needs to be, I think, separated out, so we know and the public knows exactly what is being funded for what. And there doesn't tend to be any inconsistencies or prejudice or favoritism. That's just my 2 cents on it. Thank you.
Well, just for the public's information, there is nothing but COLA in here right now, right? And there hasn't been any merit in any of our budgets for, I don't know, I think since the Pope was an altar boy, probably, but.
I definitely can say, I checked with our HR manager, they've been here 18 years, there's been no merit in
Right.
those 18 years.
Yeah, but agreed. If we're gonna have a policy for merit and that comes up, then yes, we definitely wanna point that out, I believe. What,
Yeah, I'm just saying, separate the two out.
yeah,
And whatever you call the category, merit, step increases, whatever, that's based upon that policy, of that particular department. If the county's talking about comprehensive COLA increases, I think that should be displayed separately.
right.
And
Now-
Mr. Chairman, if I may, somewhere in the presentation today, I've seen it, Jennifer will have a comparison sheet of,
And we printed it out in front of you. You should have a hard copy, but I also have it on the screen. I was able to get from all of the surrounding counties, their COLA/merit that they're using in their budgets. And you can see Culpeper, 2.8 COLA plus a 1 to 2% merit. Page is 2%. Madison, right now, we just have the 3% COLA. Orange, 3%. Rappahannock is 2% COLA plus 2% merit. And Green is 2% COLA plus 1% merit, and Louisa is 4% COLA.
Yeah, I look at stuff like that, and I don't know, when they say 2% merit, what 2% of what?
and so it
You
would
know,
be
that sort of
based
thing.
on, so everything comes back, even the Lexipol policy that the sheriff is proposing, and as well as the county's existing merit policy that they have, it's based on performance. So when you have an evaluation, and our policy requires those to be done, I think by November or December, pre-budget. So if a merit increase was requested for funding, it would allow finance and myself to basically create averages, just like you see that spreadsheet for the sheriff's listing of their employees. You would know where everybody's ranking is, and then those would be percentages of their salary, sir, their existing salary, and that would be effective July 1 of the following year if the board approved merits as a whole. But what that strategy does in that context is you'll know, because not everybody's gonna get the same, because it's not like a COLA.
Right.
So you'll be able to know how much pot of money you need if you're proposing to give a merit increase.
So the 37,000 is coming from the 58 down to the, well, I think it's 38,000, but whatever. Going from the 58 to the 38, that's counting that particular merit system. Is that correct? or
That's
not?
correct.
So
That's-
if he does that, then he does, in fact, have that merit system in place.
Yeah, it's just goes back to the funding part, which is part of their policy, subject to funding, which you all decide that.
Right.
Correct. So it did reduce from 58 to the 38.
Yeah, he's gonna do
The
another
request.
3% across the board, and this is an alternative to that. Which, we're so late in the budget process, and as everybody will see soon, we've got a gap that we've got to cover now. I am not inclined to, my vote would be, we do not institute that this year, but I'm really glad that we've got this policy here, so we know what we're dealing with, and I'd be glad to revisit it next year, but I can't.
But
do
it will
this
be
year.
enforced this year, because that's bringing the numbers down, right?
What?
It's not, the number's not in the budget
Oh, I
at this
thought it was in
point.
there.
Oh, no, no, no.
No.
We didn't put the 58 in.
It was something we were looking at. though.
We could,
It was on
yeah.
If the
list.
58, if the 58.
The
line.
58 was a no at our last meeting. We said no at that point in time because we hadn't seen any sort of a policy yet. So it was one we were
So-
going to revisit today.
Right. And no other departments were set to receive any kind of merit increase this year too, so. And there is a policy in place for that, so going forward, if the department heads so choose to budget for that, and they come to us and we have the funds to do it, then so be it. If we don't, we got a huge gap we gotta close right now. So that's just, what does everybody think? You,
I'm okay with that.
yeah? Mike?
I'll go either way. I thought the
All right,
38
well-
was a nice comeback with that.
It was, I appreciate it, because they turned it around. We asked them for it, and they turned right around and did it. What do you think, Judd?
We got the gap, we have to.
Yeah, okay, that's four definite no's, so we will not implement the merits for the sheriff this year. Okay, let's see. Information technology, Mr. Berry.
Good afternoon, everyone. All right, so I'm going to be referring back to what was presented at the previous budget meeting. So Jennifer put in 3 additional things at my request for our IT budget. The first one is an increase of $500 to the seminars and tuition line item. Essentially, where we're at with that is I'm looking to get a training platform for all of our IT employees to use to basically get certifications, increase their knowledge base. In the past week and a half, the total hours we've logged into these has been over 25 hours. We've been testing with 3 separate training platforms, so I think we've nailed down which one we want. It's gonna be around $2,000 annual. The additional $500 is basically, I was looking at a lot of the certification sit-down test prices. So if you go to take this exam, they range from $99 to $299 for some of these courses. So I'm looking to try and get at least 3 certifications for our office every year. So I kind of want a little bit of a buffer. So if we go over that, I'll have some money to send myself, Richard, or Betty to these classes. The next one is the annual support fees ERP line item. This is an increase of $6,577 for a platform called Just FOIA. Essentially, what we're looking at is replacing what we currently have for our FOIA system. A while back, I'd say probably November of last year, I built a smart sheet to basically automate a lot of the FOIA system for us. We have discovered there are limitations with that we cannot overcome. The most striking of which is there's a 4,000 character limit in Smartsheet, and a lot of the FOIA requests we get are significantly larger than 4,000 characters. We discovered that when part of a FOIA request was cut off. So we had to make sure that we could get the rest of that FOIA, and yeah, we essentially want to go to a one-stop shop platform that will basically cover all of the county. We can split it up into the sheriff's office can have their own part, the commissioner of revenue can have their own part, county can go under everything their own, and the commissioner, all the constitutional officers can be split off if they want to be separate. The benefit of going with Just FOIA is that they are a subsidiary of MCCI, who we are already partnered with through an Omnia contract for our Laserfish integration. The added benefit of this is that we have dual backups for that. Essentially, they will maintain an online repository where the FOIA requests will be backed up, but they will also integrate with Laserfish. So we will have both the online and our on-prem Laserfish servers as a backup to everything that's submitted through that website. And the
They
last,
archive it also?
yes,
Yeah,
because it'll be archived in 2 places.
okay.
So it's always good to have that double benefit. Then the last one is, this is gonna be our big one, the consulting services line item, we're asking for $10,000. This is the bane of my existence at this point. The federal government decided that they're going to reinterpret parts of the ADA where we now have to comply by April 22nd or 27th, somewhere in April of next year, due to our county's population's size. We have to comply with Title 2.1 of the WCAG standards, which is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And if we don't, we are essentially opening ourselves up to drive-by lawsuits for accessibility. The short end of it is we need to maintain digital accessibility, so our website, any of the surrounding sites that we operate, which would be Tracy's tourism website and the Hoover Ridge website, we need to make sure that they meet the WCAG 2.1 standards. Essentially, there's a list. It's a very expansive list, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not particularly a accessibility guru either. So my plan would have been we engage consultants to essentially get us over the finish line to begin with. Once those consultants are done, they leave the tools in our hands to go forward without them. So we would need something that will make our website accessible once they're gone. PDFs on the website, any of the Word documents that we have, we want something that will essentially take these documents, make them accessible if they're not already, and we just go from there and avoid that, having to do everything manually or having to go back after a department head or somebody posts something to the website and fix it manually ourselves, because that will be incredibly time consuming. Any questions?
Questions from the board for Alan?
I will say from years past, doing web work, that, you know, ADA compliance is a big deal, and it's just gotten bigger.
So what happens here, though? Okay, so the consultants come in and say, you're not compliant here, you're not compliant there. That means we're gonna buy in a whole bunch of other software, or are they just gonna teach us? We're gonna have to buy the fish, or we gonna teach us how to fish?
It depends on which consulting group we go with. What
Yeah.
I'm looking for right now is a consulting group to come in here, do an initial audit, find everywhere on our websites that we operate currently, this is where you're lacking, this is where you don't meet the AA standard that we're required to under the WCAG 2.1. Tell us what we need to do to fix it, and then also provide us with tools going forward that we can use ourselves without them being present to remedy the site in the future. So this is things like Audio Eye. It's a software that you stick on your website. There'll be a little circle in the lower right corner. You click it, you can alter text size, you can make contrast increase. A lot of it we will need to rely on Civic Plus to do, because they own the website, they do the back end. We can't really fix that. That has to be them. I don't think Civic Plus is going to smack us upside the head and say, you owe us $20,000 to fix your website. But they are kind of expensive, and they have hit us with costs in the past. So $10,000, I think, is a good starting point.
So should I be scared, Jim, or not?
Do you remember back in 1989 when the ADA Act first passed, and they had drive-by suings of restaurants and gas stations where lawyers were going in and checking out the bathrooms and measuring sink heights, and you know that's what's going to happen here. It's going to be on steroids, because you're going to have search engine bots going after public websites and anybody else that they can get money out of, and you know you have to dot your I's and cross your T's.
Yeah.
The consulting groups we've met with both have
You know
mentioned
about this?
drive-by lawsuits, so.
The library has to as well. This is not alone.
The
Okay.
school is also gonna have to be compliant with their new website that they just purchased, so they're probably being hit on both ends from this. Having
Right.
to first buy a new website and then also make it
Well,
accessible.
I don't want to make it sound negative, because my mother-in-law had MS, and so I'm very cognizant of, you know, disabilities and what it takes. I just would like to try to anticipate, as we are with many things in this budget, what we're faced with down the line, so.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything further from the board?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Alan.
Alan, any good news?
His dog's doing fine.
My dog is doing great. Expensive, but,
Well,
I would say the IT department we're doing very well. We are expanding a lot of our scope and coverage. We're working with the courts to try and get their, very old archaic security system updated. which I believe the funding has already been saved for that, so we will not be incurring new costs. And fiscal year 27 is looking like it's going to be exciting.
All right. Thank you very much. Next up, we've got animal control. We'll have Ms. Warren and,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What,
no.
I asked Greg to come back and talk to, we've looked at three options. If the board were to approve the part-time position, we looked at three options for the vehicle situation for the part-timer. And I just want to mention that I laid out on this one pager for you the three options. And Greg, would you like for me to go through those? Okay. The first one, we do know that the chief ACO's vehicle, which is about 150,000 miles on it, is going to need to be replaced next year. So option one would be we could replace that vehicle 1 year earlier, and then Greg would pass down his current vehicle with the current mileage of 150 to the new part-time employee. That would require us to fund about $65,729 in option one. Option two was, we talked about last week, was to purchase a smaller truck, like a Chevy Colorado for the part-time employee, and then we could just wait and replace the chief ACO's vehicle next year as planned. As you can see, that would be $52,807 this year, and then $65,729 next year for his vehicle. And then option three, we were able to find a former deputy vehicle that was one of their spares that they could put back on the road for the new part-time employee, and then we could wait on replacing the chief ACO's vehicle in FY '28. This is a 2020 Ford Explorer with about 106,000 miles on it. The only thing we would have to do to it is put lights and lettering on it. So it'd be about $11,309 in FY '27, and then we would put in next year's budget for Greg's replacement. So, Greg, I'm going to mention anything else about that?
So option three may be a little less, where you see the lights is $9,489. I'm hoping I can take it to my guy and he can just take all the blue lights out and replace them with red lights, because all the wiring, existing wiring is already there. So I'm hoping we could save money there. And we average about 10 to 12,000 miles per year each vehicle. So I'm hoping the part-time will be about half of that. And I did check on a couple of used vehicles, and there's no way, you can't compete with the state contract. I found one 2024 of 12,000 miles for $50,000, and a 2024 with 30,000 miles for $63,000. So I
Yeah.
tried.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. So the used one from the sheriff's office would suffice then, you think?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's good news.
And I did
Yeah.
talk to the sheriff's
Jeff.
department in detail about the vehicle, and they said, Rodney Seals said that it's definitely in okay condition, and it was a spare for them for a couple years. So it wasn't like it was like a daily driver that had a lot of wear and tear on it.
Yeah, Judge?
How much is the radio? I believe it's 10 to 12,000.
12K is in the radio system budget.
It's already in the budget, or it isn't?
Well, I think we said yes to it last week, but let me double check.
Well, if you say yes to the position, which I think you said yes as a placeholder, then it would be yes to the
It was a
radio.
yes to that, yes.
So it's,
It's already in there then.
yeah, so it's gonna be 23 to 24,000 total if we went with the sheriff's vehicle. That's what it would be, plus the salary.
Yeah, and I think it would be 11,309 for the vehicle, or a little bit less. And then the radio is already in that $1.8 million figure that we're trying to close the gap on.
Yeah, I was just trying to get what the total was.
But yes, correct, you are correct, the total.
Yeah,
would be roughly 11, plus the new position was 20 for part-time, and then the radio 10, so 20, 30, 40, 41, 42,000.
Hey, Greg,
Yes.
you said, on a phone call with me, you said something where you had about 13,000 in overtime. Does that, sorry,
Yep, that's correct.
does that, will that help out on the 20 from the part-time position at all?
Correct, yeah, so I'm hoping to release some of this on-call, give it to the part-time person would be
Yes.
part-time, so we want to pay him overtime. And also, during any downtime, he or she could work on, county tags. So as of right now, we currently have, if this list is correct and accurate, we have 1,452 people, that do not have a current dog tag. If we're able to get this list down and work on it, now, obviously, if it's still accurate, people move away or the animal has passed away. That comes to a total of 14,520. So that's half the position right there.
Wow.
And plus the savings on paying me the overtime coming out.
So it's like 14K total if we were to go.
Yeah, and I pulled up on
Yeah.
the screen for you, 40,000 would come down from 40 to 11,000 in the budget. That 11,309 number would replace this 40,000 number. Because we had placeholder this part, 40,000 last week.
So you'd have, that 40 would be 11, and then you got 20 off to the side, so there's, what, 31, and then you got 12 for the radio, right? 31 and 12, for 43.
And what Mr. Cave is asking
that
you to
what you-
consider somewhat in there, you got about 14K year-to-date in OT. I don't think you can subtract 14 altogether, but there's a
That's netted
portion of
out.
that
That's
you
netted
think
out.
that would help go against the 20,000 being requested for the new PT salary.
No,
I
the,
think
we netted the overtime.
out already, yeah. That, the overtime's netted out of that 20 already.
And I'd like to thank Ms. Warren and Mr. Weekly, they helped me a lot on this. I cannot express how important this is to have this position approved. So, thank you.
Okay, so, anything further from the board? Would you all like to go ahead and make a decision on the position, which would roll into everything else? I would say I'm in favor of the position. I think it's needed, and especially under the circumstances of getting a truck instead of, saving, what, 54,000 on a truck, so.
I'm in favor as well with the option 3 on the.
What's that? The option 3. Yeah, okay.
Without taking my shoes
Yeah.
off, though, it looks like it's 14 to 20,000 hit overall for us, if you take away everything we just talked about, the overtime and all that, so.
Oh,
between
net?
14 and 20 net is what it's gonna cost us for this position,
Yeah, okay.
in the budget.
Right.
So I'm okay with option 3
Okay.
as well.
Very well, then, we will go with, sorry, let me get back to the mic. We will go with the inclusion of the position and option 3 on the truck. And of course, for the public's awareness, all of this gets officially, after we have a public hearing, and gets approved later on, so this is our expression of what we'd like to see, that the public has to weigh in on it later. All right, thank you, Mr. Cave.
Thank you, board members.
Ready?
Okay, yes?
All right, so number 2, outside agencies funding request, we've got Encompass Community Supports. Cheryl Reinstrom. How close did I get?
You were on point.
Okay,
So, thank you for your time. Jonathan had reached out to us to indicate you had some questions, and so I brought Lauren. She is our Director of Finance, so she could answer your financial questions, and if you had some questions with regard to, I think, the Thrift Road location was a discussion point, and any other questions that you might have.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, just a show of mention, when I reached out, and thank you again for being here today, and SEU as well, you don't get to hide in the back. I mentioned, obviously there's an $8,000 increase, so sure you can ask about that. I think there was discussion around the Thrift Road campus, how it's currently being used, how maybe it is projected to be used in the future, and the type of level of services that, Madisonians receive. I think that captured all the conversation that the board had last week. So if there's anything specific, sir, or however you wish for them to go at it.
So who would like to start? You, Nancy? You?
Excuse me. Okay, so when I do a search on Facebook or on the Facebook pages, in regard to your impact in Madison County with the helps and happenings that you have, I don't see any within our county. And I see several in the surrounding counties, Fauquier and Orange and Culpeper. But then again, there are no apparent community activity helps in Madison. I have been by the building over on Thrift Road several times in hopes that I could catch someone there, because I would really have liked to have a tour of that building. It looks really great sitting there, but there is each time zero activity. And one of the biggest concerns I have are several of the entities here within the county that have said that there really isn't any personal or physical presence here in Madison. Excuse me. So, and their concerns of where are the helps when we need those helps? Are they sitting in Fauquier? Can we get them here? And there's been, well, like I said, there's been several of those remarks made to me and within some of the circles I've been sitting in. Therefore, I am not seeing validation for the amounts of money that you all are asking for at this time for Madison County. So that's just my take on that.
All right. Let's see, would we like to hear a response to that, or just go, okay, response to that, and then we'll go to the next board member?
Okay, certainly. We don't, I would hope that the public does not view Facebook posts as really proof of services. When I was here during the last meeting for the budget, I had shared some numbers. Now, when you consider Madison compared to, say, Culpeper in size, Orange in size, Fauquier in size, it is smaller. That doesn't mean we don't have a footprint here. And so when we envisioned using the Thrift Road building, we were very excited when Madison said, hey, we're willing to work with you. We have a space. Would you purchase it? And so we did. And in all honesty, the last year has been challenging. We've had to kind of our own budgetary shortfalls, and so we've redesigned some of our services to increase efficiency. So at this point, with regard to the Thrift Road building, one, I will happily give you my card and I will take you on a tour of it anytime you would like. Our goal is to, and by May 1st, every day, Monday through Friday, it will be used for day support services. So that would be individuals with intellectual disabilities. Mm-hmm. In terms of behavioral health, that requires a higher level of employee, a clinician who's vetted. They tend to be much more expensive, and I think we would all agree that a clinician sitting waiting for drop-ins would not be an efficient use. Now, this does not mean we don't provide outpatient services, but one of the things that we are in the process of doing is reevaluating the use of all our clinicians and where they can sit. And our plan is to have, maybe not every day down here, but certainly a couple days a week, or a couple days during the month where a clinician is available. Currently, we have been staffing the building with our crisis employee. So they've been here and able to respond in a fairly quick turnaround to individuals that may be experiencing a behavioral health crisis or a substance use crisis. Does that?
Is that by appointment, or they're sitting up there waiting for somebody to walk in?
They're literally sitting up there waiting, not necessarily for a walk-in, but all our crisis staff get coordinated through law enforcement. So if we get a call, either through 988 or 911, that there's somebody experiencing difficulty, we have someone much more local that we can dispatch to the scene to assist with that, or frankly, just on the phone. It might be somebody that needs support through the phone, and based on what we are able to assess as the need, we can dispatch at that point the best source of intervention.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying and I hear you, but that's not what I'm hearing from the people, that it's just not available. So I'm just telling you what the needs are
Okay.
here.
I'm more than happy at another time to dig into what is the issue and how we can better meet those needs. We serviced in the last year, in terms of outpatient services, behavioral health, over 100 individuals. So we have some record of what we're doing. If it's still not enough, I do want to know that so we can be more effective at meeting the needs.
Mr. Chairman, may I ride on the coattails of Supervisor Sharpen's
Sure.
question? I think we're talking mental health, correct, is what we're talking about?
Mental health and IDD, so there is a far greater need in terms of using the space for IDD. To have a clinician in the building Monday through Friday, every week, then we would not be able to use them elsewhere. So we've not been at that point where we can just have a clinician. That doesn't mean we are not in the process of reschooling all our schedules for clinicians so that they are spending time in the actual locations where the clients are.
So part of my continuance of some of what Ms. Sharman was referring to, I talked to a lot of part of our services here in the county. So when I think of mental health, you have the initial need for follow-ups that they're non-acute.
Correct.
They could get acute, but they're non-acute. And it's being able to be seen so they don't become acute. Because when they become acute, yeah, I think part of the rapid response involves you all, but there's a lot of times when it becomes acute, we're trying to find beds. And that's where it takes up 2 law enforcement officers to transport them. A lot of times they're at the foot of the state.
Absolutely.
So I'm wondering, and I know it's hard to commit here today, and I'm certainly not asking that, when it comes to mental health services to try to prevent the acute, that I think would be a huge benefit. And talking with some of the county administrators in the past, it seems like the thought, and again, you are the professional because you fall under the Department of Behavioral Health, and their Community Service Board, and you're codified through the state, for those who don't know that. But certainly a place, even a facility, you would not need a 40-bed or 100-bed facility. You know, you could probably do all counties with 14. So if folks need to stay or be seen, but if there's a way to help in that arena, whether it's during the day or after hours, so one, you had the before acute. Even on those areas, is it possible to kind of be able to handle that more here for the surrounding counties? I know Rappahannock's close. Culpeper will probably even drive here. But trying to eliminate some of that law enforcement side and really get the help they need through clinicians or rapid response team.
Makes
to
me
encompass.
wonder if you were talking to Essie or Essie was talking to you.
I have not. We talked about the 250th, and we would love for you to learn about that because Madison has their thing. But that's the only thing I've talked to Essie about, so,
Well,
other than being here today.
okay. Actually, we have our former clinic in Culpeper that we have already applied for different grants, over $2 million in grant funds, to create a crisis drop-in center for that very reason, that there is law enforcement being tied up across all of Virginia with individuals who are experiencing either behavioral health challenges or substance use challenges. And there are just no hospital beds. I mean, it is a state of crisis here in Virginia. The commissioner has recently directed all CSBs to assess their facilities to figure out how we can step up and meet that need. Now, initially with this building, we were going with the lower bar and approach it as a non-licensed entity. Now, understand, if we go non-licensed, we can't bill. So that means there's a degree of services that we will have personnel. It will be a staffed building, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We won't be able to recoup any income for that. We are pursuing license, and we are taking the design that we have originally planned, and we are changing it not only to go from a 23-hour temporary crisis. So if somebody in Madison is experiencing some issues and law enforcement's called, and it's clear they need to be supervised, they're not safe enough to be alone, they can bring that individual to this location up to 23 hours. At the 24th hour, they've got to leave. It's not a licensed 24-hour location. So we are already doing that. That is in the works. We have a request for bids for contractors. So our goal is, I believe, hopefully by May, we will be doing renovations, and we have a very short timeline that we want to give contractors to complete that. So by the end of the year, we hope that program is up and running. But we have further then said, wait a minute, we have bigger issues here in the state. The lower level of this building, which we had intended for a different level of service, we've changed our mind, and we are sitting back down, and we're putting in 5 beds so that we can pursue licensing, so that we can be a crisis stabilization unit. The difference between the upstairs, that's 23 hours, the downstairs will be up to 14 days. So if somebody's experiencing a longer period of distress, again, they would normally be in the custody of police if they have a TDO, a temporary detention order, waiting for a bed, which we know at this point there are none. The beds downstairs, we will be able to have a law enforcement officer bring the individual to us. We will take custody, and we will support them in that location up to 14 days. So we are actually moving to address that very issue that you spoke of. Now, it's not in every county. It will be in Culpeper, which will be central, but it will be available to all law enforcement personnel from all 5 counties, including Madison.
Okay, I appreciate that, because I think of the Western state days, and look, I don't care about the politics of anybody, but everybody's seen that as a lock 'em up. It wasn't a lock 'em up thing. You're removing folks who need help to a facility who is specialized in care.
Absolutely.
Law enforcement, EMS, I dare say even some of the abilities you have within house outside of a clinician is not a mental health evaluator or services. So if again, it sounds like this will address a lot of the maybe non-acute and some acute. But boy, I tell you, when we try to rethink things like Western State, I think we've created a problem in our communities.
There's
That's just
certainly
me. I don't
been-
speak for the board.
No, I don't disagree. There have been definitely some ripple effects of that. So again, it's not a large program, but if you compare our numbers for our catchment area to other larger CSBs, the need's not that, it's not similar. But the 5-bed, I unfortunately think it'll be utilized fairly robustly.
Better than what we have now, so thank you.
When we have finalized the drawings and we have a contractor, we will be sending out communication to all law enforcement to come to the building. It's been empty for a few months, so it's kind of dirty, but we will walk through with the design so that they are aware of what we're planning, so that they know, so when we actually can open the doors, they already are ready and can move on it quickly.
And I'd be, one last thing, I would be terrible if I didn't advocate for Madison. If that bill becomes too expensive in Culpeper, I think you have 6 acres on Thrift Road. So if the design is cheaper there, we would welcome that as well. But overall, I do appreciate that there will be some new level of bed availability for the region, so thank you.
when we get that open, I will invite all members of the Board of Supervisors here, not necessarily law enforcement, it'll be a full house, but to come and see it, so that you know that there are services for our community here in Madison.
All right. What else? Mike, did you have?
Yeah, I was thinking earlier, I mean, you had said, I was looking through your application, and I was looking for how many people that you had served, and you said 100. And then I was also looking to see how many in Madison you had served. And I couldn't find either one of those numbers. You know how many Madisonians that y'all had? And also, I'm looking at, you must be in 5 counties?
I am, yes.
Because it didn't really say, but I went through the chair, the list of who's on the boards and whatnot, and I counted 5 counties, is that right?
There are 5 counties, yes. When we came a month and a half ago, I'd shared a PowerPoint that had our combined county totals as well as the county totals for Madison. And it breaks out how many individuals who live in Madison County receive services. Now, behavioral health, we provide services, so it could be telehealth, it could be in person at our Culpeper Clinic, or maybe the person works and they happen to be closer to our Fauquier Clinic. They might see their therapist in Fauquier, but it is a Madison County individual. I did not send it again for today's meeting. I can absolutely reissue this so that you have the numbers, and it breaks it out by services. So not only can you see behavioral health outpatient, you can see crisis services, you can see children's services, you can see IDD services, and you can see services to our older adults.
Okay.
Would that be helpful?
Well, that's okay. The 100 kind of
Yeah.
roundabout number. Thank you.
Okay, because I don't mind sending it.
I had written down 99 from the presentation that day.
From Madison? Or-
From Madison, yeah, from Madison.
Oh, so that was
But
Madison,
are you
not
looking?
Cole?
Yeah, there's a
That's just
PowerPoint.
Madison. It
Oh,
was
okay.
100
Okay.
plus.
Yeah, there's a PowerPoint, Mr. Snyder, 1 second.
That's it.
Client served is in there on
Yep.
one of the slides.
In terms of the AAA side of our business, I'm not sure what page number that is. In terms of just information and assistance, there are over 180 calls from citizens in this particular county that we assisted with. In terms of insurance counseling, we have had over 50 contacts, and hopefully through that guidance, helped people save money. In terms of just meals at the senior center, we have roughly over 250 people that will pop in and out of the senior center, but we have over 50 that attend regularly, and of those, we have provided over 3,000 meals just through the senior center alone. And then in terms of home-delivered meals, we have over 300 individuals from Madison that are signed up to that, with over 30 that we support on a regular basis. In terms of meals delivered for the year, it's over 3,500. So there's a fairly substantial impact for the AAA side of ECS.
This is our senior center right down here?
Your senior center smack dab down the road,
Okay.
who will be playing a more pivotal role this year at the fair.
All right, what else from the board?
I have one question.
Sure.
I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but talking about your new facility that will alleviate some of the problems with the detainment orders. This, since I've been on the board, this has been an issue of us having to tie up deputies to send them to Galax. And it's has real immediate budgetary impacts on us. Who in the state is even looking at this and considering the ramifications to not having adequate health facilities to help different localities around the state? Surely somebody's championing this, or is it just something you just swept under the rug?
No, it's not swept under the rug. I have to say, the former governor, Youngkin, he was a huge proponent and really pushed through his platform to get several crisis centers established throughout Virginia. And the current governor actually was instrumental in helping us secure $1 million from congressionally directed funds. there is an effort. The new commissioner, again, he sent out an email saying it is a crisis. It's an extraordinary crisis. CSBs, you must come up with a plan and get that to us by June. We just so happen to have had our center being worked on, but the difference is after seeing that and now hearing the crisis, the level of crisis, we decided let's make it a fully licensed program. Let's go for the crisis stabilization, which is a much heavier lift.
Okay.
But they're aware, it's just not an easy fix. And unfortunately, not all individuals with a mental illness recognize it and/or want treatment and/or will continue to comply with treatment. The medications that are often helpful have side effects that are unattractive.
Okay, thank you very much. Didn't mean to get off on a tangent.
No, that's fine.
Chairman, thank you.
You got something? All right, I got a few things. So when I did my initial calculation, I'm looking at last year's approved budget of $255,120, and I divided it by 99 and came up with 2576. But obviously, I have missed a lot of the services that you all have provided. So what I would be interested in seeing is like a pie chart that shows how that $255,120 was spent in the different services that are coming to Madison. Because I'm like Ms. Sharman there, you know, I'm hearing that, you know, we're not getting the response. But now we recognize the important role that a CSB plays. And we remain committed to the CSB for sure, but every dollar that we allocate to you all or anybody, we've got to make sure that it produces a clear, what I want to say, measurable benefit for the residents of this county. We have to do that. And I don't think that I got there in y'all's presentation, but I mean, it could be me. It could be me. I need to read stuff a few times. And that's why you're here again, because I did that. So, well, before I go on, I'd like to hear from the finance director on how this number of 263,476 was derived, if you could.
If I may,
Sure.
we are the CSB
Yes,
for Madison
you
County.
are.
But we're also the AAA for Madison County.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that is a kept secret. In Virginia, we are, I believe, the only CSB and AAA. So in other jurisdictions, the AAA is a separate organization. It happens here, when we were founded, to be under one umbrella. So we're not just using money from local government just for the CSB, it's also for the AAA.
So your funding request is just for CSB or it's for both?
Both.
Okay, both. Very well.
So, Lauren.
Please.
Okay, so I'm going to answer both of your questions, so,
Yeah.
because I actually know that. So 10% of state funds, we have to do a 10% match on that. And then the Office Area on Aging, we have to match those funds by 25%. So those two amounts are put together, and we allocate that out based on the population for each of the counties. In Madison, our amount that goes to the elderly, or the aging population, is almost 64%. And the other 31% or so goes to mental health and IDD.
Okay. So, yeah, go ahead.
Because I'm
Mr.
not
Weakley.
tracking, I've heard IDD, the acronym is,
I'm sorry, Intellectual and Developmental Disability
thank you.
Services.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
And that's from birth to death, so it's everybody in between. But we can, tying on what Lauren said, we can provide you a pie chart for just Madison to show you
Yeah.
how we're spending your money.
Please, I would appreciate that. And again, I mean, yeah, I understand the match because I work for Community Action Agency, and everything we do, we have to have a match. But without knowing what the other side of that is that, you know, I get it, 10% and 25%, but that, and the population. So that ends up boiling down to, we need X number of dollars per person living in Madison County. That's how it ends up falling out?
Yes.
You see what I
This
mean?
is based on, yeah, population.
Because I don't know the other side of the
Right.
equation, so, all right. So I think, I mean, this board discussed this, I don't know, last week or week before last, and we were proposing a reduction because we feel like that we need more transparency, and we need for you all to demonstrate more of a direct impact to Madison County, which I hear what you're saying as how you could show that to us. So we are, or I am, and I'll ask the rest of them, I think we could be open to revisiting this sometime down the road. They have asked for 263, 467, and we had put in $242,000, which is a $21,000 reduction to what you've asked for. So, I mean, our goal is not to withdraw support at all. You know, we understand that, but we need, the partnership needs to be more effective and accountable and aligned with the needs of the people of the county. So that's why we reduced it, so.
We'll also hit the gap too.
Huh?
Also to bring our gap closer, not just to reduce it for reducing sense, but
Right. So anyhow, we came up with $242,000. Is that reasonable under the circumstances?
We appreciate your support.
Okay. Very well. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing a beautiful pie chart.
Okay.
We'll get that to you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have Ms. Bonnie Oots and Mr. Gary Jones for the Madison County Library. Yeah. You want- All right.
I had mine up there. So
Okay.
I'll take another one if I want.
Hi, guys.
Yes, I'm gonna
I can tell you that the letter I received from Jonathan was a little bit of a shock.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, honey, the phone call was needed. I really appreciated the phone call. That was, because I looked at that and I thought, okay, we have to justify this again.
Well, we appreciate having him to make the phone calls.
Yeah, I bet you did. I bet you did.
So we'll go through it, Bonnie.
Okay, guys, what you have in front of you, the first page is the federal standard that Virginia adheres to and every other state in the union as to what a library really truly is. And we meet all of the standards. Page 2 is a 1971 copy of the Board of Supervisors declaring that the Madison County Library was the official library of Madison County, Virginia. Page 3 is a copy of the state aid formula for all of you. And page 4 is the requirement of the state. This is the state median. In order to reach the state median, they take, I'm sorry, guys. My allergies are killing me this year. Anyway, in order to reach the state median, they take what every county is giving per capita to their local libraries. Add them all up, divide it by the number, and come up with a middle ground that we are supposed to meet. We have met it exactly twice in the 30 years that I've been here, or almost 30 years that I've been here. We've come close. We're close now. But not all the way. Not all the way. This time around, the state median for '24 was $14.95. Taking the early estimate of 13,300 people in Madison County, multiplying that out in 23-24 fiscal, we should have received $198,835. We received 170. You guys, we're getting there. Back in 2016, we were reprimanded by the state because we were consistently lowballed and not given what the state required. And we were 8 libraries, including us, were put on referral. And we had 5 years to make it up. It took us 7 to where we actually got enough above the line so that they quit talking to me about it. We have a rank right now where we stand. We are 77 out of 95 libraries in the state of Virginia. That's strictly financial. It doesn't have anything to do with our summer reading programs. It doesn't have anything to do with how many times we go to see the kids, how many times we go to see the schools. It's strictly financial. Our funding scale percentage, guys, of your budget. In 1921, it was 0.58%. 21.
2020.
What I said.
You said 1921.
Yeah, well, hey.
And you had the budget.
I wasn't quite alive then, but it felt like it. In 2021, we were 0.58%. In '23, and I couldn't do 55 because the website, I couldn't get the numbers off the website. But in 23, we were down to 0.55%. 0.55%. In '24, we were 0.51%. In '26, we jumped up one. We were 0.52%. That's 25-26 fiscal year. So guys, you're getting a bang for your buck. You really, truly are getting a bang for your buck. A library is one of the most essential outside agencies that you can have. Does anybody know how much Culpeper is spending on their library? 2 years ago, it was 1.7 million. Orange is 2 point something now. Those are what we're being compared to, people. Lauren
Right.
has it. Bonnie, why don't you have it? I can't sit or call them up and go, I need all 200 of the best sellers. We go through and get what our patrons need and require. I don't
Let's-
know how else to say what we need. Questions?
Sure. Go ahead, Mike.
So, one of the things that you just said is, you were comparing, you're saying that yourself as an outside agency. But your page 2 here, or whatever this is, says that you were designated by the County Board of Supervisors that you are actually the county library.
They
So,
were
are you an
recognized-
outside agency, or are you really part of the county?
They are recognizing our nonprofit as the official library. Okay, it's always been set up that way. The library is 88 years old today, or this year. 88 years old. We have been in continuous use in this county. So, we are the official.
How do our year-over-year numbers look as far as visitations?
I'm sorry.
How do our year-over-year numbers as far as visitations to the library, like?
Truth to tell, COVID was bad for everybody. COVID was bad for everybody. We are almost back to pre-COVID numbers.
Okay,
So we're doing 450 to 500 visits a week.
a week, okay.
Oh, yeah, we need for you to use the mic some more,
I'm
Bonnie.
sorry. I talk
You can take it off if you want.
Yeah, take it off and walk around with it, that's fine.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who else?
I've got another, so when you, earlier, the last time you were here, you used a different word, and I'm gonna use that word, and you said that you were on probation. That today you used a different word that.
Referral,
Okay,
same thing.
oh, okay. What does that mean to you? What does that do to the
What
library?
that meant was, the Library of Virginia, the state library, where we get our state funding, they're the ones that control the funding, okay? We had been so consistently below their goals that they put our library and 7 others, they gave us 5 years, and they were gonna cut off state aid.
Do you know how much that the state gives you? Do you know how much you were gonna get this year or next year in fiscal year
Sure.
27?
32,000.
32,000.
Extra,
There it is.
that's extra, it's 30.
109,577.
$30,000.
Okay, thank you.
They increased, now, the cause of that increase was because we have a sheet that has the list of all the libraries, and several went into the negative. They were reduced because they didn't meet some of the standards. That's just the way it works. If you don't spend the money they give you, they don't give you that amount of money the following year. They spread it out between the rest of the libraries, which is us.
So it looks like a 52% match, right? 52, almost 53% match. So I've got a couple specific questions, though, Bonnie and Gary. If you look at the labor on your budget, Personnel, labor, went from 162 to 180, 17,905. That is exactly 11%, when the rest of the county is getting 3%. Okay, now scroll down, if you would, Ms. Warren. Huh? Go down to fundraising expenses. Fundraising promotional expenses, you've got $6,100 total dollars in there. Fundraising expenses, I can't look a citizen in the eye and say, we're gonna give you fundraising expenses. I think that ought to be netted against your fundraising revenue, because what if next year you decided to have a gala and it was gonna cost $35,000 at Early Mountain? Would the $35,000 be in there? I just can't imagine that the state, that the citizens should be paying for fundraising expenses. You see what I'm saying? So I've got a problem. I mean, I love the library, don't get me wrong. My mama was down there a lot. And wasn't she? But 11% when everybody else is getting 3%, and fundraising expenses, those two have got to go. They got to go. I can't do that.
Well, the 11% is an error on my part, that I did not include the increase that we did last year.
All right, so then we can drop that down to where, what I said, then drop it to the 3% like everybody else is getting.
And the other thing that we're facing is for many years, before I got there, that we were dealing with a board that was almost looking at the staff as almost slave labor.
Well-
What they were paying. And like I said, Bonnie's 70, I'm 69, and the other two,
Not yet,
get there, get there.
not yet.
But two of daytime help, they in the 60s. We're not gonna find the next generation is gonna be working what we started.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to bump up the base wages,
Yeah,
so we
Yes.
can get competitive people on our staff when our days and time comes, we gonna have to go.
that's right.
And
But-
otherwise, we just gonna get whatever we can get, and that is not gonna be good for the library, it's not gonna be good for the county.
Well, hopefully we find another good, true Madisonian that wants to do that, like you guys. But you all were here for the sheriff's discussion, and all that stuff. This falls right in line with that. You know, we're all striving, you know, to do that. So but I maintain, that going with the 187.6 would keep us in compliance and adjust for 11% to 3% raise like everybody else is getting, and do away with the fundraising expenses. That's my position.
The
What do you
fundraising
say?
expenses, I do not have any problems with, but
Yeah,
I've been working on my 25th year.
yeah,
And when I inherited the position 25 years ago, it was a line item there. So all 25 years forward,
for fundraising expenses?
that line's always been in there.
Well,
If you
you should
come
be
out,
sheriff. Huh?
we can take it out, and let's go around.
All right, what's the opinion of, I can't go with the 11%. You know, not with everybody else. Everybody's getting 3%. I just can't do it, but, you know, there's 5 of us, this is a democracy.
Some clarification, all right, so
Okay.
the 11%, does that represent cumulative for 2 years? I mean.
Yes.
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 Okay. And so how much of that is broken out for this year?
When it's coming in,
Yeah, your proposal,
we're projecting 5%.
okay.
All right, go back to the budget, please. If you still got it handy.
And like I said, the starting page sheet
No, just
is
their labor. I want to see the labor from one year to the other. I'm not understanding. Okay, last year, the labor was 162,645.
Right.
And y'all paid to that. I assume you did not overrun the line item, but it's, whatever, I don't care. And this year it's 180,550. You're saying that you did not, it was 162,645 the year before that too? So you're trying to double up to catch up?
No, I left 5% out of that 162, so we had to pay more that year.
Yeah, I think that is the budget, right?
I think I understand what you're saying. So this column represents your budget, and in your budget, you forgot to add 5% to your payroll. However, at the end of the year, you went over because you forgot to add that in. Is that what you're saying?
So what's 162,645 times? We say 3, so it'd be times 0.03, then again times 1.03 to compound it because he wasn't in there. 162,645 times 1.03, that result times 1.03 is what? Is 172. So there's 8. I had taken off more than that. So 8 there and 6 from fundraising, that's 14 off of 207. Oops. Right. Is that, am I understanding that correctly now?
Yes.
I compounded it. Okay, so then 193 down from 207 to 193. How does that sound, everybody?
It's fair.
Does that work? Does that work?
That'll work.
All right, we keep the pages flipping on 193?
At $41 a book,
Okay,
that's how much it costs these
I'll
days.
send you the $41.
Yeah, I bet. Actually,
Okay, I know.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to recognize whoever found the board minutes. I
yeah,
appreciate
I'm
it.
glad I don't make y'all take us over. You hate that.
Because that was kind of one of the fundamental questions. So as you see when Jennifer has up there discretionary, non-discretionary, this dedication by the board, I think, answers the, what's defined as public. When I think public, I think of a county library, which is what you're talking about with Culpeper and Orange. That's why those numbers are so higher. But the state code is looking at public different. It's a designation by the governing body.
I mean, we are your library guys,
Oh, yeah.
one way or the other.
And I hope I didn't mean to do that. I mean, it's just me and arithmetic, okay? Okay, all right,
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Get your hat, Gary.
And side note, if you've never been to the Madison Farmers Banquet, it's
Yeah.
this Saturday, it's the 80th anniversary.
At Rapidan?
No, and
That's-
Oh, here,
yeah, Brother Dave's cooking, partnering with Shrimp, so it's gonna be good.
okay.
Be there.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we've got budget scenarios. We've got our finance director and our county administrator going to lead that one. Where do we start?
So I wanted to start just by providing you with the updates that I have made to the budget model from last week. As you'll remember, when we ended last week, we ended at was negative $2.2 million to fund opening balance appropriation. And now on the screen, you see I have 1,879,200, and I wanted to explain how we got to this number. So the updates that I have made since last week, first, you heard from the treasurer's office. I did update her budget with the $26,000 increase in fees, plus added an additional $110,000 in revenue. I updated all department budgets with the health insurance increase passed along 100% to the county. I added all the reimbursement amounts for the health care for DSS in the schools that we pay into that health insurance line as well. I reduced the school capital request here. Let me pull it up on the screen. That was $550 last week. You'll probably recall this was $550 and $100,000. I spoke to Dr. Timmons, and we have come to the conclusion that the timing on payments for this replacement is going to be split between 2 fiscal years. So we are able to do 2 of the payments in FY '27, which would bring that down from $550 to $275. And then the other 2 payments would be FY '28, so that budget would also include the $275. It just wouldn't all hit in fiscal year '27. And then on the Boys and Girls Club HVAC unit, they were able to get a quote. They thought it was going to be $100,000. However, they found out that they can put in a smaller unit, I think a 15-ton unit versus a 20. If I'm saying that right, I hope. So it came in at $50,000, half of the cost. So those 2 reductions have been reflected in this budget since last week. No, they're going to need the A&E this year. They're going to talk about that at CIP. Let's see what else. On the revenue side, we updated our sales tax number, as Ms. Murray mentioned. We removed some grant money. VDM, you'll probably remember we had like $104,989 in grant expected money. That money just came in. So the good news is we got it early. So that money's gonna, if it's not tagged for anything, it'll hit fund balance at the end of the year, unless the board decides to appropriate that money for something else, another project. But I took that out of revenue since we did get that this year. And I reduced the erosion and sediment bond revenue down since we're not going to double that fee. I added 2 pennies to the real estate and 10 cents to personal property in the budget, which was where we ended last week. And I calculated contingency figures off of the expenses as I finished up the expenses. And then the only other thing, and I reduced the school board request $75,000. I think that was a part of last week's discussion. And then added, there was a $12,000 capital expense brought before you last fiscal year by EMS for some replacing laryngoscope equipment. And last year, when they brought it forward, the board decided, hey, let's wait and fund that in FY '27. So that was one thing that I did not remember until this past week. They reminded me of that. So I have added that $12,000 into the capital as well. So making all of those changes is why we're here at this number, $1,879,200. And I've also provided you with a breakdown by department again on the next page of where the requests are after making all of those changes and what the percentage increases are across all the departments. And the overall is a 4.7% expenditure increase between the 2 fiscal years, a little under 5%. And then I did a summary budget here for you so that you could see what that looks like, a little bit summarized version between revenues, expenditures by function. And then you can see what the split on opening balance appropriation is. On the operating side, you need 991,983 in fund balance, and then on the capital side, it's 887,217, and that's where your total comes in at 1,879,200. That's the break between the two. And then fund balance start at the year is projected to be at 23,466,461, and if we keep this opening balance appropriation, fund balance would go down to 21,587,261. And then I have some fund balance slides after this budget. This is the full budget, but I do have some fund balance material for you, some estimates, so that you can see your unassigned fund balance as a percentage of your total expenditures would be roughly 24.5% at the end of FY '27 if we go with this budget. And you can see unassigned non-restricted fund balance. That's the fund balance that's not tied to anything specific. At the end of the audit was, for FY '25, was 4.8 million. It's projected to go down to 3.7 million for FY '26 based on the budget. And then with this 1.8 million in opening balance appropriation, if you use that number, you'd go down to roughly 2.9 as your balance.
I was gonna ask that 3,677,000, I kinda asked it earlier, that at this point, that is the budgeted amount, or is that your projected amount?
No, that's budgeted.
Budgeted, okay.
Yes. And then I did the metrics on, or the calculations on what the budget stabilization, joint services stabilization, all of those figures would be with this budget, and as well as, what our contingency number would need to be. So I'm going to pause there, and Mr. Chairman, would you like for me to bring back up the Excel version? And what I've done is I've set it up so that if you change your yes and no answers, it will give us a new amount.
Yeah.
And since I have updated the libraries in here to 193,423, it now should be a little lower. It's 1,856,330 because I've also updated the vehicle for the Chevy side. Well, I'm going to take out Chevy.
With
It's
Community Services Board, we already had it in there at
correct.
242, didn't we?
Yeah. So if I take this down to 11,309 for using the 2020 Explorer. Let me change that. Proposing 2020 Explorer. And then we've updated the library's amount. We're now at this figure.
Well, it is a pickup, right? So it's.
Yes, it was a pickup.
2020 Ford F-150.
It's a 2020 Ford Explorer, actually.
The 2020 Explorer is
Did
what
I
he's
put the wrong
proposing
thing?
for the used position.
Yes, so he's going to use the sheriff's,
So it's one of the four that they
Okay.
have taken off the road,
Yeah.
and instead of auctioning off all four, you would auction off three and move one over to animal control. Jennifer,
Yeah.
if I may ask a question real quick, I'm sorry to put on the spot, it just dawned on me. So what I think I heard, and this is gonna go to the schools, so I don't know if you got that information pulled up. So initially, Anna presented a budget, the school board went back and talked. They said 4 of the 8 positions, not the 8. But then I think I recall hearing in this meeting last week that they could benefit from a 5th, being I don't know if it was.
An aide.
An aide somewhere in the
At the
primary school. So when they transmitted their budget before that information, the local request, I'm sorry, I squint too much, at that time was 10,998,874. Have we got a new number for them that reflects that additional position?
I have not seen
All right,
anything, no.
then I think we may need to ask the schools, or, well, they could give you a budget, you can give more. I just want to make sure we're tracking the right number. for the
They,
schools.
So they had, in taking, let's see if this out, they had, in taking out, originally, those 4 spots left 185,000? And then, they, adding back that one teacher aide at the primary school, they needed 35 grand to do that, so it left 150, and divided by 2, as they kept 75 to put in the strategic initiative fund, and we kept, and we reduced their amount by 75.
So overall, if we took that 10 million, almost 11 million numbers, subtracted the 75, we'll be at a good number.
Right, their original amount
That's
minus
what I've already,
75.
I've already taken 75,000 off their original amount.
All right,
Yes.
Yeah.
all right. Thank you very much.
All right, back to the spreadsheet. Right there, the yeses and the nos. The only one I know about right off is, I think everybody's in agreement, we're gonna raise the lodging tax to 6% and raise the meals tax to 5%. So they would become yeses down there. Judge, you're still a no on both of those, and everybody else is a yes?
Yeah, I'm a yes.
Yeah, okay.
Did you want to approve it, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I had given you a handout, actually Jennifer provided, I didn't know if you want to speak to this now, and it may not, I mean, you've made your decision on the, I think I heard lodging. But Jennifer, as brilliant as she is, she went and looked at Page County, because when she has a spreadsheet that shows a variety of revenue, and what other localities are charging in those categories. And it was eye-opening to us that Page County was charging 10% top versus our 5. So when she looked at their long-range plan, and this is the sheet you have in front of you, I'm holding up now, it says long-range plan.
It was a hard copy they passed to us.
It's got a flow chart on there, or not a flow chart, it's got a chart on there of top revenue. It's interesting to see, of course, Page County has Luray Caverns, I'm assuming, I don't think the town annexed Luray Caverns. But you can see a big swing in that. So I'm not suggesting go to 10%, this is just a point of relevance of what another community did in their long-range plan.
And
just want to point out.
Thank you, Mr. Weekly. And I did see that Rappahannock is proposing 10% now. So we've got Page at 10%. We've got Madison currently at 5%. We've got Rappahannock looking to go to 10%. And we've got Louise at 7%.
And that's in
And
this,
Green's at 8%.
you have it in your packet, but it's this handout here Ms. Warren's reading from. It's a table set.
Oh,
that
sorry, I
has-
could pull that up. There you
Yeah.
go.
Isn't that the hard copy you
Yes,
got on
and
there?
she has it on the screen.
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Chairman. Thank you, Jim.
So, yeah, so you can see currently where all of the counties are here. I'll make this yellow. And then the ones that are proposing increases, I'll make purple. So that's a 10. Well, this one's going to stay the same. So really, the only one I heard from that said they were proposing an increase out of all of them was Rappahannock.
Page staying at 10.
And I did get confirmation, I thought Culpeper was at 2%, but I spoke to Valerie Lamb and she said, no, they went to 0 a few years ago, so.
Yeah, they put it somewhere else.
I think
Look,
because of the
I tell
town.
you know, if the expenses that we have budgeted here, I want people coming into this county as tourists to pay it, not the citizens in this county.
We're gonna be paying it because we're gonna be eating at Geno's and,
Well, yeah,
out
but
there, et cetera.
Oh, yeah, we will be paying it too,
And we're
sir.
trying to do that as a community and as a county, is spend our money here where we can. You know, there's a lot of things, you still can't buy a pair of shoes here, but you can get a hot dog.
Do it gladly. So you're good with meals and lodging, right?
You know what, I don't like any of it. I I don't like it, and I know we don't really have a choice, but I don't like it, and I'm just saying.
Well, let's go back to,
Yeah.
where are we right now? We're at 1,666,000 right now, right?
I understand that, and I hear it, and I know we gotta do what we gotta do, but no, it doesn't make me like it.
Okay, of course, I don't think, I mean, that's a given, I would agree with you on that, but, I mean, that is,
And we just, you know, we know what we have to do. We're just gonna keep pushing forward and try to make up for it.
so now the question becomes, do you want to take the lodging tax to 7% and get another 50 grand out of that?
Well, it's at 5, so you're saying you wanna raise it from 5 to 7, or are we raising it from 5
No,
to 6?
it's at 4 right now,
So we're
right?
No, it's 5 on.
I mean,
on top.
5, and we
Meals
raised it
is-
to
Meals
6, yeah,
is
I'm
4.
sorry.
So Mills is going to 6, and lodging is gonna go to 5, is that right?
I think it was meals going to 5.
Meals go to 5, lodging goes to 6.
Is where we're at.
Wait, from 5 to 6?
5 to 6, correct, is where we're at now. Let me make this
Percent
yellow.
increase, so we'll go back to that, yeah.
So, and that was, what was our question, was going from, do you increase lodging tax to 6% was 50,000 for every 1%, and do you increase meals to 5 was 140,000. So that's just increasing each of those 1%.
Mm-hmm. So now, if you would go to that fund balance again, we're at 1,600,000, yeah, I'm sure this isn't hooked to that spreadsheet, right?
It should be, yeah.
Oh, it should, okay. Look, see the unassigned, on line 14, unassigned, non-restricted.
Maybe not.
Look at, right now, 3,677,328, if you put your cursor on that one. No, that's not what I was looking for.
That's
There's
what the
three.
that
Oh,
is what the projected FY '26 in.
yeah, I'm
fund
sorry,
balance.
start with the 4,000,008 over
That went
there.
up, didn't it? That was at 2.8,
What's that?
line F, where she's at right now, line F. Wasn't that?
Yeah,
let's
it
see.
did, so, and that makes sense because it's, we would be having less about opening balance appropriation, so.
What I'm trying to get to is, look at that thing shrinking. Okay, there's only so many years that that thing can keep shrinking before, now what are we gonna do, okay? We have department heads that consistently turn money back in, but we can't, we don't know that until, I mean, we didn't know that until, David Foley finished his audit for FY '25, which ended last June 30th, when he came in here in January, was it, when that presented?
First of February.
February, yeah.
But anyhow, so we can't count on that. And you can see it going like this, so.
Mr. Chairman, to add to that, you haven't gotten to item number 4 yet, to look at your 5-year outlook, which I think
Oh,
is some
yeah.
relevancy of what years are to come, as far as capital needs.
Yeah,
Yeah, and just take a step back from where we started last year.
yeah.
And we did the projections at 5 years. And we were looking at, with the different trend lines of expenses versus our income, this year, it was projected that we would need to raise property taxes by over 8 cents. Now, if you take a fund balance appropriation out of the calculation, that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Now, next year is predicted to go up another 6 cents, and then the year after that, another 5 cents, unless we do something with our tax base. Now, and I'm just thinking where we're at right now. If you look at the wealthiest counties in this country, they're in Northern Virginia, Loudoun, Fairfax, Arlington. They're all running budget deficits. And these are $5-6 billion budgets, they have virtually automatic tax increases every year because they reassess their real estate every year. And, you know, the argument in Fairfax now is, well, they're gonna hold the property tax rate the same, but because of the constant reevaluation upward of the property, the average property, I think homeowner is gonna pay another $400 a year in taxes. So even with those automatic increases in taxes, which we don't have, because we do it every 6 years and we equalize, these people can't balance their budget. And the lesson there is that it's because they can't control their spending. And if you can't control spending, you never have enough income. And I think we've done as best we can controlling our spending, at least on the county side. And I'm not sure that we can do much more unless we're gonna start cutting services. And I don't think people are gonna accept that. My original thoughts on this is that we were gonna be looking at least a 4 cents tax increase, to keep ourselves at least above water. 2%, 2 cents, great. I'm thinking maybe 3. And again, believe me, folks, that's gonna cost me personally a lot of money in increased taxes. It's gonna hurt. But on the other hand, I think it really puts a focus back on, we need to get out of this mindset in this county that we can't do anything. And we went through these SUPs last year, and the event venue in out near Malvern's another example. People come in here and pound their fists that they don't want anybody bothering them. Well, okay, that's fine, but the cost of that is that your taxes on your house are gonna just keep going up and up and up. So that's something we've been trying to work with, because this county has had a historical culture, we don't want anything. And I've heard from people doing economic development, the reputation Madison has is they don't want anything, so we never look there. Well, we've gotta change that. But the fact is that we're now, the chickens are coming home to roost with regard to this budget. The plus side of that is that if you look at our real estate taxes in real terms after adjusted from inflation from 2021, our real estate tax rate right now would be about 63 cents. Now, I'm not saying let's raise it to 63 cents. I probably shouldn't have said that, because now we're gonna have the school and everybody else go, hey, raise the taxes to match inflation. We need to spend. We're not gonna do that. I think we've done a good job of keeping the cost of taxes to the folks in this county well below the rate of inflation. So that's, and I'm not trying to justify tax increases to anybody because I think it's an insult. But I'm just saying, look at it in perspective. I think we're doing a decent job, but it's push is coming to shove on this. And I've been encouraged by a lot, mainly the county side of our operations. You know, they're taking this seriously. And they're coming in here, and like the sheriff, he said, look, you know, this is what I'm trying to do. He's been explained, been very cooperative. The same with every other department on the county side. So I'm gonna have to sit here and argue that I think in order to make sure we don't get into a situation where, as Ms. Murray told me many years ago, the county ran into a situation where they couldn't even pay their employees because they were running out of money. I don't want us to get into that situation. But I do want to impress upon people that we have got to change the way that we think about growth in this county. We don't want it to become Culpeper, we don't want it to become green, but we do need to promote more of a tax base, or this is the future.
Yeah.
I do want to recognize, I mean, we don't know the fruits of the labor, but I do think it's worth recognizing the board, which you passed recently with the PACE ordinance that would allow stopgap funding should
like that.
a business meet the application guidelines of that program. So we hope those help. I feel like you're doing what you can as a board, but we hope some of those SUPs that you've approved actually come to fruition through their funding stream.
Yeah, and I feel like, well, with the Economic Development Committee, we have it going. And I feel like we have a planning commission and a board now that is business friendly. So we got that going for us. So, I mean, last year, well, we had ended up having $1.5 million turned back, wasn't it?
It was 1.4.
1.4. Now, what kind of anomalies were in that one? That was because the CIP, a lot of that got pushed off.
I think that's correct. Well, and the schools turned in closer to 9, I think.
I know at least 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have to look back at our notes, but
And
I did,
and
it's
the interest.
1.4.
So we're
Yeah.
looking at like a $1.4 million margin if we're based on the history of last year, it comes back to the fund balance. So I wouldn't really wanna appropriate any more than that this year, or not much more than that this year.
Yeah, we're at what, 1.6, what right now?
1666. Get back to this.
And there are things that we don't know. Mike's off. There are things that we don't know. We have in there, assuming the county would fund based on your decisions. I'm gonna throw 2 out there, like community paramedicine, and then we have an ambulance coming up. Now, we have talked to Chief Hillstrom today, part of the RSAF, don't ask me the acronym, what that stands for, but part of that grant cycle, an ambulance was part of that. So we get awarded that ambulance number, I think it's cut in half. That'll be a positive, we just don't know that yet. And then, to your point, Chairman Yao, I think you said last time about the other grant, there was some money provided to the state of Virginia for grants, part of that rural health. So we are putting our hat in the ring for the community health program. If that's the case, then that 111 you see on the board there would be covered. But those are what ifs, so you
Yeah.
have to plan for the uncertainties.
Then let's, all right, 1666. All right, let's go look at the CIP again. I mean, remember last year, Judd and Jim, that was one of the last things we did. We took the CIP and went down, and we had a target of, I thought we had a target last year of 1.4. Wasn't that?
What wound up happening, we not only went through the CIP, but when you were approaching the conversation, consideration of debt financing, which you did last fall,
Yeah.
we took the approach, or you directed staff, because I had recommended, let's look at assets that are beyond, like 10 years or beyond, of items that would make sense of funding. So we scrubbed through all of our facilities, and of course, we asked the schools to do the same thing. And we put together a package, and then you all went through and made decisions on that, that got us down to a certain level of funding for projects, which will, some of those will occur late FY '26. We're in the process of that now. And then others for the county would be FY '27. The schools, same thing. The big bulk of that $4 million, Mr. Chairman, was the schools, I think 1.8 million for their fresh air project in Waverly. But that was over 2 years. So what we tried this year, outside of the fleet that you just heard from, and then, of course, there's a radio and stuff goes with the part-time position now you all are looking to approve. We did not look to add to your facility side. However, based on our conversation, Mr. Chairman, we normally carry out a 5-year for you to look at. So while there was really no changes in that for FY '27, the out years are there for those items. And we've gone back in year over year since this report came out in 2022 of facilities condition assessment, which you funded for us in the schools. We've gone back and scrubbed it based on your idea. Like there were things in there, those exit signs, fire extinguishers, different things that we can handle within the operation side of facilities. So there's been a lot of scrubbing to get that to where we're at today. And we're also trying to take care of some capital asset replacement programs. So for example, Jennifer has listed there, you can see 40,000 for this year for phase 2, but we know there are going to be things he needs to replace in those out years, and we allocated like 10 grand for that. So you have some programs that have buckets of money, like your mass appraisal happens every 6 years. We have 50,000 in for that. For your registrar, we don't know if you're going to downsize or not on precincts, but we put 20,000 per year in there for those equipment if you did consolidate. So you have some options there. None of that affects FY '27, but that is normally what you do is when you adopt your CIP plan, it is a 5-year plan, but understanding what you fund is in the current fiscal year, you have a public hearing on and adopt.
Yep.
Would you like for me to go through the capital 5-year at this point, or you want to stick with what's for FY '27?
Yeah, I was mainly concerned with FY '27. Is there anything in there we could scrub? But
Well, for FY '27, I do have a summary of the capital. So to break it down, facility study items is roughly 482. This is debt finance, so we can probably skip over those.
And that money needs to be spent
There's a
by,
portion of it that within, like, I think it's a 6-month to 12-month period, but you have time. The biggest thing, Mr. Chairman, is when you decide to term that out, meaning you need to basically choose a fixed option. Right now, I believe it's interest only for the first year or second year or something like that. Ms. Moore?
It's interest-only payments, correct.
So at some point, you need to term that out, which would affect your debt service payment overall.
So I guess let's go back to the
Okay.
yes and no one. So on the right here is the capital side. So we've got the reassessment, putting that money aside. We have a yes to that. The voting equipment, we brought that down to 20,000. We said yes to that. Ranger side by side, we said no. We said yes to this concise mobile networking for first responders. 40K for the laptop and desktop replacement phase 2, we said yes. Zero-turn mower and new aerator at the Parks and Rec, yes to those. New radio, that's for the animal control vehicle. And we said no to the sheriff 7, but yes to
Yes to the
4.
four.
And then yes to the magistrate system equipment and the fingerprint system. And then we brought down the schools. Now, Stacy Timmons, Dr. Timmons did say he could try to negotiate a contract where the full payment's due in FY '28. But again, that's just kicking the can down the road. I want to point that out. But we felt that it would be best just to split it between the 2 fiscal years, but he did make that comment that based on the timing, the invoices could be all paid in FY '28.
And then to that point, I mean, it's a good strategy if it works, but where they're currently at, if you approve this funding, which includes some A&E, that just provides funding for an A&E. So they still have to select an A&E for the design of the replacement of the middle school, high school, the 2 HVAC units that are part of the system. There's probably some controllers with it. They do that first, and they believe all that will take until May of next year, calendar year, or, it is next year, May 2027, to be ready to purchase. So they don't even know who the general contractor would be at that point in time. So we hope they would allow that. We had success with the Fresh Air project, I think that was allowed, where they allowed us to move the first invoice to July 1st, so
They're
we can
making
push for it.
payments on that one. But I do want to note that the 550 total does not include the 100K they need for A&E.
And you all are meeting is March 30th, I believe, is the next joint CIP,
we meet Monday, right, Mike?
where that would have to be discussed. And assuming that was discussed, you all still have, I mean, even if that joint CIP committee says, yeah, we like it, you all as the whole board of supervisors have to decide if you're going to approve that or not.
And that would be an FY '26 expense this year for A&E.
And the school has that money, and we'd have to take that out of contingency.
We would have to, that, they do not. We would have to take those funds, what did we decide?
I can't remember if we said
Talk-
FY '26 or FY '27, but either way, they would need it. They would need it
Yeah.
at least for FY '27. If you want to appropriate it out of your
Yeah.
contingency now, you can do that. but-
Either contingency or this money we just received from VDEM,
Right.
104,000 on that grant reimbursement. I mean, there's extra money.
Is everybody tracking the VDM, where that 100 came from?
That was the school's,
vaguely.
So there was an emergency shelter
Shelter
grant that
generator.
Gavin applied for. And the idea was if we had right now, our emergency shelter is the firehouse. If we got into a large-scale event, which is not going to happen, a larger facility like your school. So there was a generator, the schools agreed to site location there. Now, it will become an asset there. They'll take care of the maintenance and the fuel and all that moving forward. But I think it was 151 or 152K as far as the monetary. And then the county had a certain portion, I think it was 30-some thousand. So that delta between the two is what we received back. So it was a partial match, and then we got those funds. So I just want to explain it for all who may not be
And it's not
aware.
restricted.
No, because we put up the total
Yeah,
cost,
let's-
and then they reimbursed us.
Then let's do it this FY '26 then, yeah. I don't know, you guys would see any, I don't see anything in there that.
Did we want to talk about the other two part-time jobs at all? Are they still good?
You talking about Clarissa?
Clarissa and then
and then
the
the
animal.
Parks and Rec.
Animal shelter.
In the animal shelter.
So you have
Four.
recommendations of, or what was in the budget was a part-time for the animal control. Oh, unfreezing, what you're talking about, the
Correct.
part-time for, so
Correct.
unfreezing of the animal shelter, second position. You had a position of, a recommendation of conversion of PT to FT for Commonwealth's attorney. You had a recommended conversion of a part-time employee to full-time at Parks and Rec. I believe those are the three. Because you just revisited the animal control
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, I didn't even say them because we'd already kind of determined that.
Okay.
There was the other three there.
So it's 36 plus, the Parks and Rec was,
That one is 26,000. If you were to remove that, the savings would be 26,000.
We've got 26, 21, and 15.
Then you have your FTE court security position.
yeah, that's what I got too, 62 grand. Yeah. I know, I personally think they all needed, I mean, the Parks and Rec, I've been out there and they're swamped. We've still got a lot of stuff to talk about that anyway, but
And you're still fine with where we sit with Encompass?
yeah, reducing it to FY '25 levels. Yeah, I didn't state it that way, 'cause I didn't, that sounded worse.
I also did some other math, sorry.
Oh, Mike, go ahead.
And in some of the outside agency proposals, I went through and level funded, the ones that were in the yes category, I went and level funded the ones that we actually added more to and came up with $19,880.
So where would you like to start, Mr. Chairman, on position review or outside agency review?
Yeah, well,
where would
let's
the board like to
talk
go?
about the positions then. So we got, was it 4?
What I heard is the board decided on the animal control side, so
Yeah.
now it's animal, well, let me not put words in your mouth, Mr. Snyder.
Yeah.
So the animal shelter, did you want to talk about also Commonwealth Attorney and PRA, or just animal shelter?
I just knew there was 3 there, so
Yeah,
I just
so those
didn't
are
know
the-
if we wanted to
Court
revisit
security.
that or not.
Well, court security, I think they all agreed on last
Okay,
week.
that's fine.
So the 3 positions would be unfreezing the second frozen part-time position at the shelter, the conversion of PT to FT of Commonwealth's Attorney's Office and PRA.
Now, are they reflected in that current, final figure?
Yeah, the
That
ones,
we assume that we are doing, and they're in there.
So the yes was to animal shelter, so yes, that's reflected. The Commonwealth's attorney was yes, so yes, that's reflected. And then the Parks and Rec, the no means we weren't gonna take it out, so that is reflected in their budget. Because they made a request and put it in their budget.
Because I thought we had left them out originally.
we cut 58 grand out from them.
Right.
That was for the other part-time jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wanted 4 or 6 or something.
Had to do with the splash
It
pad
was
and
6,
so on.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm
They're
good
only gonna
with,
get busier out there.
huh?
They're only gonna get busier out there.
Right.
Yes,
So-
we're in a position where, services are gonna start to hurt, but I think that going forward next year, we need to seriously give departments a heads up, don't ask for any more positions. Not
Yeah.
until we get our revenues up. I don't think that's
Yeah.
unreasonable.
Yeah, I'm good with the position. I'm good with the way we have it right now.
And with the additional 5th person at the school.
Well, that was,
That's already been factored in.
that's
there.
factored in there, yeah. So we would have been splitting 185 if they hadn't taken 35 away. Then we split 150. so that's already,
What was sorry. What was the total health insurance above and what was last year, how much?
After factoring, actually putting it into every department, the total increase was 225, 194. I had originally thought it was only going to be 200, but then I had forgotten about the reimbursements that we do for the schools and DSS. So I had to add all that in. So if you net these two, the decrease and the increase on that, it's like 150.
150?
Yeah.
And then if we took our COLA down 1%, how much is that, 111?
If you go from 3% to 2%,
Oh, it's 9. 90.
it's not roughly 90,000.
and then hang.
I think it's in Harlingen County, they're only getting a 2% raise. The union employees are only getting a 2% raise. So you start subtracting out their dues, they're worse off. They might, we just don't wanna go there. I mean, that's,
That's right.
and I think we're consciously making the effort that that's not where we wanna be in the future as far as that philosophy is spending.
Yeah.
Do we look at that, though? Do we look at 3 to 2? Because, you don't think so?
No, absolutely, I don't. That's that's 90 grand, you know,
Yeah, but it's,
huh?
but our insurance is.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let me see.
150. Yeah, I can say that, yeah, regardless of what Mr. Mitch said the other night, they set a precedent.
Yeah.
So that's
fact.
gotta be avoided next year.
Yeah.
We did.
We'll get together. with
Yeah,
them.
we have a meeting, we're getting ready to set up with the brokers. Apparently, the schools have a different broker than we do for Anthem, so we are working on the meeting schedule. But what we got back from Anthem was that the rates aren't gonna change for this upcoming, but for next year, we're gonna really try to get ahead of the game and
So
see
is
what we
Mr.
can do.
White still there, broker?
And it was a female,
Yeah.
I don't remember her name, but it was like Marvina or something.
Yeah, well, on the insurance, health insurance side, there's, the larger the pool you're in, I've found, the better off you are. So there's no way I would ever advocate that we split off from the schools and go it alone, because
Doesn't make
that's,
sense.
no. Yeah, pooling with them, and plus, I don't know what their age demographic is versus ours, but you would think it would be younger
Well-
and not get healthier.
You gotta look at activities.
But there's a lot of births.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
oh, forget about that
Let me
part.
just
Yeah.
state, I mean, I don't like taking money away from employees with the COLA and all that.
Yeah.
But I've been through some hard times in personal businesses, and nobody gets a raise, right? You don't take away money from them. Nobody gets a raise. You don't get a 3% COLA in private business. So if our health costs are going up, cost of living, that's part of their cost of living. So why wouldn't you consider taking it down 1%? You're gonna raise taxes on all the businesses here. You know, so, I don't know. So I'm just a little pissed off that we don't even consider it because we're afraid of the school. I mean,
No, I'd consider
so,
it.
I mean, just, everybody's gotta feel a little bit of the pain,
Right.
but that's just my point of view.
Well, I'm not
Okay.
afraid of the schools, believe me. I think I was reflected Tuesday night.
And I,
But no, I agree with you, Judd. I mean, it's a,
I know what our employees do here, they're great, they're the best in all the counties, I believe. But we can't help the insurance going up. So,
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I've preached total compensation package my whole life, but, you know, rarely. I mean, I'm contributing 7.65% FICA to your retirement every time you get paid. Does anybody ever consider that? No, they don't. But whatever.
well, it's just
Yeah.
a good thing that you and I are on the county policy, because we really push that risk.
Oh, I know, yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, I'll consider it. Don't want to do it. I want to keep it at 3.
okay.
I mean, I'm good with where we are right now, unless, what else have we got that to look at? We're out.
Let me see.
That's just me, Joe.
So we're talking positions, and then you were looking at outside.
Outside
agency funds
agencies.
For Mr. Snyder.
All right, let me go to that tab. So here's the end result. And I think what I understand Mr. Snyder saying is if you were to flat fund all of them, is that what you were saying? So for example,
Flat fund, the ones that we didn't flat fund.
fund that we flat fund, so for example, Central Virginia Partnership for Economic Development, taking that down to their 10,000, is that what you're saying, and go, so forth and so on? What was your total savings you came up with?
19,880.
So I'll let you decide which ones you want me to,
All right, you want to go down through them real quick then, Mike? Aging together. We already put in.
We put in
already
flat
funded
funding.
on that one.
yeah, flat funded on that one, flat funded on boys and girls. Central Virginia Partnership for Economic Development, we gave them an increase of 347.
Okay, we flat fund that one, then that's $347. Whatever.
And then,
Culpeper one, that was 3648.
so that would go down to 30.
No, I don't want to do that one. Soil and water. What do you think?
I can't comment.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I was just going through them all, and that was the number that
No.
I came up with.
Right, but what do you think about Culpeper Soil and Water?
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Well, are we looking for money?
For what they do for us for $3,600, my answer would be no. I'm not looking for $3,600. I'm looking for $150,000 somewhere. If we go through everything he just did, we're at 19,000. I mean, Culpeper Soil and Water District does a lot of stuff for us. We are an ag community. Be like, what? Department of, oh yeah, the Department of Health.
That was enough.
It's already in there.
Yeah, I don't know that we can do anything about that one. Department of Health, Mr. Weekly, I don't,
No,
So
that's-
that's a
that is
formula.
Non-discretionary,
Yeah.
on that. I would say some of your other non-discretionaries, it really comes down to, I mean, I know, Encompass is, falls under the Department of Behavioral Health. So we could probably change that to a, no. But the thing is, you have, members you appoint to various, committees or boards that those members generally hear, review, and vote on those proposed budgets. So that might be something to think of before next year we get here. If there's any messaging we want to give our members for any of those boards, you know, if you want to hold the line or you want to see those budgets before vote is taken at those committees, that's certainly appropriate. But BDH, yes, sir, is a non-discretionary. It's just like the SS. They're a state agency, but you're required to have a local office. And generally, you pay for things like personnel and so forth.
All right, so now we're down to, what, Encompass, well,
Well, I'm just wondering, what is Encompass's full budget? Do you know that? Do you know how much they have out of Culpeper and what their main funding
Yeah.
is?
I can look.
Because they're one of our highest, well, they're not the highest. I think for the amount of work they do here, they tried to make it sound like there was a lot, but there isn't. I think they want to grow it.
Yeah, I think the pie chart that the chairman asked for would do wonders because probably the biggest presence they have here in the county is the senior center.
Right.
And I don't know what part of that 200 and some thousand makes up, so that pie chart would be very helpful. I think that would go to your question about how they're using Thrift Road and those services. You would see where that money is going.
So that's just the letter. Here's their audited financials.
yeah, they got like 36 million in assets or something.
What I did learn was some of their facilities are dealing with some remediation of stuff. They've had like water pipe bursts and different things they've had to deal with that they're trying to make more use. If we can get them to do, like they talked about with the transports, that's gonna be a win. I don't know what that number is yet, but I'm gonna talk to the sheriff's office. That was encouraging of hearing today. That's gonna make a big difference. Two people, Galax and back, you're probably, I mean, if they're stopping, you gotta stop, for goodness sakes. But, I mean, you're 10, 12 hours at least, with two deputies, and a lot of that's overtime. And those folks right now don't need any more vacancies. I can tell you that. Yeah, if you get into Pound, Virginia, I mean, you're right at the foot of the state. You're almost in Kentucky, so.
So I have their audited financials up if you have any questions on them.
No, I don't,
Yeah, the Encompass, they didn't really answer any questions today. And that's,
Except they served 300 people.
well, I mean, you should be able to say, okay, well, we do this, we do that. You know, this is what, it's like, here.
Well, and when I say I've heard from other entities, I have heard from other entities, and they're saying they're not helping us. And
Who are they feeding? I mean, it sounds like they send out a lot of meals.
Microphones.
Sorry. Who are they feeding? It sounds like they send out a lot of food.
I'd
In
have
Madison
to ask
County?
that, sir. I'll put that down as a
senior
question.
center, I think.
Is it just the senior center?
So they are the AAA, which is Area Agency
Yeah.
on Aging, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think somehow, when I went back to the record, I don't know how they would have the authority over the board of here, but I believe the planning district, had recommended that as how they became one of the few, if not the only one, that's doing the AA services as part of the CSB. And I don't know if their AA services comparable with some we get from Aging Together. I do not know that, but I'll find out, sir, your question of who all they're feeding.
No, I just know like in Arlington, Meals on Wheels is covered by the AA. So I don't know if I don't think we have Meals on Wheels here, but
Well, that's what they said was they take food to people's houses.
yeah, so is that meal,
That'd be the equivalent of
the Meals on Wheels?
Meals on Wheels.
Yeah, I mean, well, we reduced it to FY '25 and said, we asked them in front of all of us if 242 would work, so I don't, you know,
Keep that.
yeah. All right, Mike, you'll go down to the Foothills Children's Advocacy Center?
I'm just, not advocating anything, just going down the line.
Mr. Chairman, with point of privilege, sir?
Uh-huh.
Because I'm interrupting you. Do you wish to take a break or wish to wait on discussion? I noticed Supervisor Sharman
Oh, yeah,
had to
till she
step out
gets
for a
back,
minute.
yeah.
So that's your
All
call,
right.
sir.
Yeah, we can do that. You want to take a quick break?
Over 50
Until-
break.
All right. I know. A youngster. You gonna?
You know I am. But I got a big,
Sorry.
I've got a big mouth. You might be able to hear me.
You with us, Kim? Okay, so you want to keep going down these things, or we good with this, or what? You see anything glaring on there that you, I mean, like, one of the biggest ones was Foothills Children's Advocacy Center going from 2000 to 15, and we had our Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney come in here and speak on their behalf. We had Clarissa speak on their behalf. So,
That was the only other big one that I
Yeah.
had seen on there.
That are out of Charlottesville, right?
yeah.
They are, but they have a place
Here in the,
basement for Clarissa.
Right, right. Let's
Correct.
get it.
And
yeah,
if you value children,
I'm good with that.
if you
I
value
understand
children that
that.
have been abused, that they have to go to 14 places to give interviews and relive that.
Well, see, that is the main thing that I had the issue with, was because the first presenter that we had, it sounded like the children had to go to Charlottesville in order
Yeah.
to do that. And I'm like, you know, when they need you right now. They don't need you tomorrow, and they don't need you in 8 hours. It's, so.
yeah, they're here.
And they film here and everything so that everybody can get this film.
Well, and I understand, the thing I do respect about that too, is the child has to tell it one time. Yeah, instead of so many different times. And yes, I do value children. I would just want you to know that for the record.
No, I know.
Uh-huh. I'm just saying, yeah, that's touchy. Yeah.
So, we've covered, we've covered about everything. So, is there anything else? Now, going forward, obviously, there's some stuff that could crop up, like the CIP meeting that Mike and I have to go to on Monday. You know, I don't think anything will change, because we would probably advocate that they put the A&E in FY '26, and we'll handle that, not have to put it in '27. And if Dr. Timmons is still good with splitting it between '27 and '28, what I would like to know is the unit that's on the high school, I think that was put in 2014. Is that right, Mr. Wiggly? So 2014, so it's 12 years old. Is that all we should have expected out of that, you know? So that's the kind of stuff I want to see us talk about at that and see what comes of that.
But I think I'd like to verify that to them. I'm
Okay.
making an assumption.
Sure.
Because out of all the schools, when we borrowed that money in 2013, it was touching on all the schools. The high schools had the largest renovations, if you will, and I believed all that equipment was new, Mr. Chairman, but certainly we want to verify that with Dr.
Okay.
Timmons next week.
So we do that. So what I'm getting at is the likelihood that there will be some things that crop up between now and when we're ready to go to public hearing. How will the board, how will we disseminate that? Will we bring it up at later board meetings? Or
You definitely, can you bring up the budget calendar real quick, please?
it's inevitable
I know
something's
your
gonna come
public
up.
hearing, we want to have, based on your approval of the calendar, I believe it's April 14th. And then
That's
your
not very
adoption would be April 28th. So your next, unless you set another work session, you could use some of your joint meeting when you meet to do business. You can call a special meeting. I think we have an advertisement date we'll look for, Jennifer, because that's kind of we need to know what you think by, if you will. What's our advertisement? Did we put that in
We
there?
put March 30th.
So, yeah, so that
Okay.
is a tight deadline, because we rely on. Yeah, so, and that's who we rely on to advertise, so.
Do we have to do the full 2 weeks? Is that what we determined? Okay.
Even with the electronic type stuff now, yeah? Okay, well, I guess it is what it is
changes?
at this
But
point, huh?
what changes, Mr. Chairman, you were thinking that maybe some changes come? So the 100K for A&E, if the CIP, I guess even if they approved it come Monday, because this is the body that decides that 100K, really, even if they recommend it, how do you feel about that? Because I'm just hearing that, what I thought I heard, at least the majority, is pull that from FY '26 fund balance, which would be your approval, or supplemental appropriation would be prepared to do that, and you would execute that at a meeting coming up. You can do it the next meeting if you wanted, the Board of Supervisors. Did I hear that? If the joint CIP approves it, that you all will be amenable to do okay.
Yeah.
And that still comes out of that unassigned balance fund, correct?
It would, but it's favorable.
It's still coming out of the same pot, is that right?
Yes, sir. That 3.6 million that Ms. Warren had, we're actually a little favorable by that 104,000.
That came in from the
Because
grant.
that money came in this year versus FY '27. So it'll be a supplemental from your fund balance.
That's correct. And so for the advertisement, we just have to advertise the max rate. We can always go down.
That's right.
So whatever we advertise, we just want to make sure we advertise, we can't just go up after the advertisement.
Oh, well, I guess, so we've gone through the budget scenarios, we've looked at the 5-year capital plan, then we still got admin fees on
Yes.
on the agenda, so I think maybe we better look at that, we
That was
just
just
gotta
gonna-
confirm that that's what we wanted,
Yeah,
right?
it was just a recap of
Yeah.
what you changed. So let me pull that up.
I mean, I don't see anything,
The only thing that you wanted to keep the same versus the recommendation was the E&S bond, so we left that at 1,000. We went in and cleaned up, we wanted you to see it, though. We took out that per day or thereof, portion thereof. We made it more understanding when you get to transfer station fees for tires. So there's the passenger car and truck, and then there's the commercial, such as your tractor tires. So we shown, we shown that. So really, again, it's just taking what feedback you had last week is what we have there. And then again, we made sure that E&S fee stayed the same. Something Jamie pointed out to me today, and I appreciate it, was, I don't know when we did it, if it was last year, but under the building and zoning, I think it was their last page of theirs, they recognized that, is that the last page of theirs? Basically, the waiver you do, such as the fair, that's accounted for in waivers. Like there's some line at the bottom of one of their pages that says waiver for PRA, I think schools and fair was added to that. So essentially, though, that would still leave the disposal fee. So you all kind of nixed that, you all approved waiver based on that letter at your last meeting. So they're taken care of for this year. If you wanted to assume waiving disposal fees, we want to know that, but we have accounted for that in the building and zoning moving forward. So if there was a zoning permit or a building permit needed for those things, those fees would be automatically waived per your approval of that administrative fee in that language.
When did we go back to the 1,000 from the 2,000?
That was last week. I think it was last week or week
I thought-
before last. We talked about going to 2, and there was discussion
I was
of,
for the 1,000 to begin with, but I thought we had kept it at.
I think it was
what
you and me
proposed.
at 2, and we had 3 for 1,000, so.
that's correct. The majority wanted to leave it at 1,000.
Yeah.
And where that conversation ended, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chairman, was if we saw some default or issues,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to wait the budget time to address it. You could come back, have a public hearing to amend it and change it at that time. Did I
And since there are no-
accurately reflect that?
Yeah. you
Okay.
did.
And it doesn't change the opening balance appropriation because it's both revenue and expense.
Right.
Can I ask a question? How many, you might not know this, but how many of those do we have? How many $1,000 checks are in our funds? Is there 1,000 of them? Is there 500 of them? 100 of them?
There is an accrued balance of them. I'd have to look to see what that is, but every year the auditors true that up to make sure, that the liability is accurate. But I'd have to look to see.
I'm just wondering, like, how much does the county make when we put it into what we were talking about with the treasurer? Like, does that money go into that fund and you make a few pennies on it? I mean, I don't know.
Well, the bond itself, the $1,000, that full $1,000 goes back to the.
It does, but in the meantime,
With
it
the
takes a year and a half
Oh, the
to build a
interest.
house.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's, I think,
Is that a real number or not? You know what I mean?
how long, what's the average length of time we keep a bond, do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
you
the
could have,
question.
you could have a
About a year,
smaller
it's a year.
example, or
Did
it
you
could
get
be
it
a
back
year.
with
You could
interest,
have
or you
some
got your
that's.
No, not
So
with
it-
interest, just
Oh.
1,000.
It would be-
Just 1,000.
It would be fair to definitely say there is gonna be some interest income earned, because I'm sure they have, quite a few bonds, because I can tell you what the expense
If you went by new
is.
construction alone, now that housing information that I sent around recently, the housing gap analysis, I think, and they pulled permit data, they were saying, I think last year was like at 57. So we're at least 50-some homes, if not 70 for new home.
And it's a year and a half to build a home usually. So the county has that money for a year and a half, which is fine. We have it in case something happens. But we're also making money on that. And the homeowner doesn't get it back with interest.
Right.
And which is okay too.
Right.
And the
So
second
you want to
question.
go to 2 now?
No,
Okay.
no. No, I don't. And my other question is with the tires, you got it at $7, which I would say either do a 5 or 10, because when Reese is at that little station there, they're paying cash, so.
I've got some
Someone's-
information on that tire stuff.
Okay.
I made some phone calls, just to bonify that.
I'm just saying, but if we could make it just more of an even number for the sake of Reese down there who's taking cash,
I got you.
you know what I mean, either 5 or 10,
Right.
but.
So I talked to Audrey down at, Pourville, and just to make this real quick, she said that they have kind of figured out that it's about $2.90 per tire for their cost to dispose of them. And they can get between 150 and 200 in a particular container. So that just validates that at $3, we were kind of breaking even with the exception of the larger tires. And, so.
I think.
You're
Well, I
saying
think-
Audrey from Updike is saying it's $2.90 to dispose a tire, and every other shop charges $7 or $8 to dispose.
Yeah.
I'd find that interesting. I would have to talk to them.
I even talked to
Maybe because they
Otis.
do volume, I don't know, but it just seems like other shops.
Otis is charging $5 a tire and $20 for the larger truck tires, but not the great big tractor tires.
Well, I say Updike can give Reese a bunch of ones. We're not going to turn this into goat talk, so.
Yeah, I want to make that short.
Okay, everybody good with the admin fees too? All right, well, I guess that's a wrap, huh? Oh, yeah, so, all right, you do that before we go to public comment then.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, and I'll turn my microphone on.
Mm-hmm.
Make a note of that, Chuck, I turned my microphone on. Now, I'm gonna address the incident Tuesday night because, this is the people's board, and we were elected by the people, we represent the people. And on Tuesday night, we had a school board member come in here and basically castigate us for the way that we deal with the school budget and the school administration. And they particularly targeted me. The comments were, I think, were pretty obviously targeted towards me as an individual supervisor, including questioning my professional competence and decision-making and even my personal integrity. And it was really a sad event. I mean, that's very unfortunate. It's no way to run a county. And, my response to that is that this board is elected by the people to be stewards of the money that we require them to pay into the county coffers every year. And we're supposed to take that money and we're supposed to be good stewards of it, and we're supposed to spend it in a responsible, effective manner. And that takes work. We have to do research, we have to do analysis, we have to do collaboration with departments, and we have to ask some very tough questions. And we also have to make some tough decisions, not all of which are popular. And we're going to continue to do that as a board to, fulfill our responsibility to the citizens, to be stewards of the tax money in this county, to be stewards of the services that we need to provide, quality services that we need to provide, including the school system, and to do it smart, to do it responsibly and collaboratively. And I think that that's the approach that I think folks in the county need to take. I took no personal offense. I am a elected official, but where it did bother me was the fact that the county board was attacked, and it was unwarranted. So those are just and I wanted to address that because we are the representatives of the people, and thank you for indulging me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Jewett.
Mr.
Well,
Chairman?
I do hear you on that too, Jim, and I also heard him say the board members who were sitting in the audience that night at the school board meeting, so I know I took those hits too, but not as much as you did because you've worked more with Grant. But anyway, I just want to say, I just am grateful for this board, and I am grateful for how we may not agree, but we don't actively disagree. Let me say that, okay? I mean, and I appreciate that. And the school and Mr. Dickey is out of hand. Completely.
Well, first I want to thank all of you for all you do. I really do mean that. I'm very pleased to work with such a great board. But I wanted to leave you with some good news. If you take this 1,665,000 number and you remove our contingency 1% that we have to set aside, assuming we don't use that contingency money, that takes your opening balance appropriation down to 1,289,000. So keep that in mind. Although we have to officially have the 1.6 in the budget, if you don't use that contingency money that you set aside, you're really at 1,289,000. So just wanted to point that out.
I appreciate you mentioning that, Ms. Warren, because one of the earlier questions by one of the supervisors was, was there any anomalies when money is turned back in? And if you budget within 1%, I mean, all this is estimate. We look at trends, history, your decisions on what you want to fund. 1%'s a big number. 1% of what county's operating budget, or 1%, if the school doesn't spend all funding there. So that's generally why you're always going to wind up with a six-figure number. It's just what is the large. And then I think the other part of that is either unrealized revenue, if we hit higher on real estate or sales tax, which are great things, if you can, on sales tax. But if you have situations like a project or a loan or something, like ARPA, that'll dry up soon because it's toward the broadband, but it takes a while. So we've had a benefit of that. But you raise a very good point, sir. You've done a lot of analysis. I know it was we included your narrative, if you will, in last year's budget book that speaks to a lot of that. Because when you factor in inflation and other things, that dollar amount really is more than maybe what we may be projecting with our tax revenue rates now. So I too want to thank you all. It's a hard decision that you all make. I said what I said last week. Any initiatives you can do for the employees as a whole is welcome. But you really do have hard decisions. So thank you for making those decisions.
One more comment, Mr. Chairman. Go on record.
Sure.
Got my microphone on, Chuck. I've hired and worked people both in private industry and public environment, and it goes without saying that good employees save money and move you forward. Bad employees are catastrophic. We have excellent employees in the county, and if we didn't, I'd be the first one to say that they're not. But I know that folks here, Ms. Warren, the hours she puts in, Mr. Weekly, Mr. Gordon, and all of the folks that I'm aware of do excellent work. Don't forget Kim, she runs the county, actually. You know, and I think of Mooney, he's out there working himself to death all the time. You have a snowstorm, you have a problem, he's right there. So I think we need to take care of our people. I think it's important, because if we start having substandard folks, it's gonna cost the county an awful lot more money in the long run. So that's what I wanna go on record as saying. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna second Jim.
Very good.
Thank you both.
Okay, we're down to public comment. Any general public comment? What you got?
So I wasn't sure, because we don't normally get public comment on our YouTube live chat, so I
Yeah.
wasn't sure. Someone had put something in the live chat during the meeting, it wasn't during public comment. Do you want
Yeah,
me
let's-
to state that?
Sure. You can read that to us?
Yes, we had two. One was a microphone comment, just
Okay.
from Mr. Mitch Dickey. And then Mr. Mitch Dickey also commented towards the end comments, everything that I said was direct quotes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dickey. All right. Well, if there's no further public comment, we'll close public comment. I have one other thing. I see we've all been invited to the schools on April, whatever it is.
It's April the 16th.
16th. So obviously, if there's more than two of us that want to go, I guess we'll have to do some sort of special meeting or something. But I can't go because it's a Thursday and I got to work. But are there more than, well, you were planning on going, right? Okay, so there's the two reps to the school board. So Mike and Judd, are you all dying to go to this thing, or we will just let them go and report to us, or what?
It'd be nice if they would accompany us. It's a
Yeah.
lot of good things go on in the school.
You want to go?
I would have wanted to go, but I'll sit out if it's a problem.
No, it's not a problem. We just have.
Yeah, we just
wanna
have
make
to
sure it's not
advertise.
staged.
Yeah, I've asked him to send out to kind of see the interest, so
Yeah.
we know, whether if you've already replied directly or replied to her, because we kind of, we look at that. We're your parliamentarian and try to keep you out of hot water.
Kim,
So-
I just replied.
So we're tracking that there's at least a majority.
Okay.
So we'll have to advertise that as a meeting.
And then, well, then if Jim's gonna be here and I can't, then you'll open up the meeting and, blah,
I
all
would
that
just,
good stuff.
yeah, I mean, whether you want to do it on site, now, we did that at JMU, we did it on site versus, I think here, when the EDC or whatever went to the data center, we opened here and then did it there, so we
yeah.
weren't doing it at private, so
Yeah, I
if you
would
want to
say-
open there, we can open there.
Or you could open here and walk over to Waverly Yale. Except that then when you leave Waverly Yale, they're gonna hit all four schools, is that correct?
My understanding was they are.
Okay, good. Judd, you can go too, you think?
I think I kind of just checked.
All right, good.
I do not know that, sir. We were invited, so I would direct you to Anna on that. I think it's called A Day in the Life of a Student is what they have as a theme. And we're gonna start at Waverly Yao. I do not know the other curricular or planned events, Ms. Smith, but that's what I know at this time.
No, it is it's great to go and see the kids and what they're doing.
Yeah.
Teachers are doing.
Yeah.
There's some more folks that work hard.
Yeah, we have a good, and it's nothing to do with that I'm here, but we have a good, I know at least twice a year, the consistent things that we have, I don't know if it's the Historical Society that leads this effort, but we usually have Waverly Owl kids that come up, and they kind of, we become available to talk to them, and then they kind of show them some of the Historical Society things. And then the last couple of years, I know dual enrollment English and even their local government classes have reached out. So whether there are shadowing opportunities or we go speak to the kids based on topics that they have raised as part of their project. So I think that's been running for the last 2, 3. I know for the Waverly Owl event, at least 4, and probably the other 2 I just mentioned the last 2 years. So it's good interaction.
Yeah. there.
I think they're making lunch, and I think there's gonna be some cupcakes, I heard too, so.
Okay. Then we have no closed session, so entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Here, I have a motion and need a second? Did you second already? I'll second. Okay, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. All right, we're adjourned.